a host of Real Men, Real Talk Live. Welcome back to the show, gentlemen. Again, my name is Jay Rothman. I am the host of the show tonight. In the studio, we have Evis Love Heath, the man of the land from down under, coming in from what he calls Australia, his home. Welcome to the show, Ev.
Thanks for having me, brothers.
We have the Jeff Fasano coming in from Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
We have Josh Richer coming in from Santa Monica, Southern California. Welcome to the studio and show tonight, Josh.
All right.
And we have alias Mr. Black Brad Pitt coming in somewhere from Tampa, Florida. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Welcome.
Great to be here.
I got to tell you guys, in a production room pre-show, you guys were all on fire. We were all over the place.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Jay.
Well, what I want to do is take a moment here to welcome our viewers and listeners to the show. We are a show of interaction. It's an interaction. We welcome your comments. If you have any questions that come up for you during the show, please drop them in the comments. We appreciate you. If you hear something that you like or love, with like or love, gently tap your like or love button on your screen there, and please share it out. Please share the show out on your homepage in Facebook. If you're coming in from Facebook, if you're coming in from YouTube, welcome to the show as well. Let's see what Jillian right out of the gate. She says, Black Brad Pitt, better looking as Charles Maddox. Well, there we go.
Hey.
Yeah, Bronny Fisher. She says, hello from Victoria, Australia. Bronny, welcome to the show with us. We're glad to see you coming in live with us. Keith Ottersberg coming in as well. I believe somewhere. Well, Keith, tell us again where you're coming in from, where you call home. In any event, tonight's topic is a hot topic because it's all about the C word, known as compromise. How have we compromised or been compromised in our life? This is a topic that I know we as men on Real Men Real Talk Live all hold dear to our hearts. Because as human beings, we are always having to either negotiate or compromise in relationships at home, in relationships at work. And so there's lots of bits and moving pieces to this topic, to this capital C. And so without further ado, welcome to the show. And what I'd like to do is I'm going to invite Josh Richer, by the way, I'm going to ask you to drop off because you're a little hazy tonight. Hopefully your reception will come in better. If not, we'll just have to accept you just as you are. You're beautiful either way. Nothing changes about you. It's just how your aura around you right now is just a little hazy. Maybe that's exactly how you're supposed to be showing up. But Evis Love Heath, I haven't heard from you in a few days. You haven't seen a live. So I'm going to invite you. You're next to me right now in this moment. Drop us into this topic of compromise, and what does it mean to you?
Let's dive in, brothers. And as always, my family, brothers and my sisters on the other side of the pond. If you're here in the land down under, we're just on the middle of the day. So the sun's beaming, coming over a little bit of rain. But look, the big C word, as you say, compromise. And look, I think there's a couple of attachments to this C word, and for some funny reason, I've got a feeling, my brothers, we're going in about relationships somewhere in here tonight again. And I think through those beautiful things that we forever talk about within relationships, it does definitely give us a good projection of how we could really understand this word. And I think when I dive in tonight, you're going to, see from my own experience in relationships that I've been in that I've had to compromise, man. I've had to compromise. I've had to, let's say, compromise my particular gifts my particular mission, my particular purpose, all in the name to be together. And I look at this etymology word of compromise, and you know me, I love digging into words, and I'm just looking at this word now, and it's talking about to let go, to promise, to be able to release. So what are we releasing? What are we letting go of to compromise within a relationship with that beloved, whether that may be at work, whether it may be that friends or even those foes, as I say? Are we really compromising the most important thing of all? You, me. Or do we also have to come with this word, and I think bring in another word, which is called sacrifice? And from that little platform, particularly with me tonight, I'm going to allow you guys to digest a couple of those words and what they may mean to you within an experience for yourself, and how you could have sacrificed something of value for yourself or compromise, and what that may be different and how it's showing up within your life. Because I know for me, man, I've been on this online platform for quite a few years now, and back in 2013, I had to pause for a little while because I went into a relationship. I felt I had to play a little bit smaller, but now I'm starting to light up again. The blossom is here. We're going into 21, my brothers and sisters. Last year, we asked you the question, are you going to be the one? So I'm looking forward to diving into this show tonight on compromise, because, man, there's so many layers and so many dynamics for it. But as always, thanks for joining again, brothers and sisters.
Yeah. You know, I hear you, and when we talked about this in our pre-production show, our meeting, I started thinking about this a lot, and I think it comes down to, have I compromised myself in areas of my life? Have I given myself up in my life? Have I stifled my expression in my life? Have I compromised myself in an unhealthy way, given away myself to save a relationship? Look at it that way. Or, as Evis just said, where are the compromises that I've made in healthy relationships all across the board, because we have a relationship with everything, an intimate relationship with a lover, relationships with friends, relationships with your profession or your career, your boss, your coworkers. In healthy relationships, the balance of giving and receiving. What are your needs? What are my needs? And where is there a compromise, a healthy compromise in relationships, where there's a balance of giving and receiving? So I looked at it from both those angles, in a healthy way and an unhealthy way. The unhealthy way meaning, have I given myself up? Have I compromised my integrity? Have I compromised my truth? Have I compromised who I am being in a relationship or something outside of myself just to be loved? That's where the compromise comes in. I'll compromise all of that so you'll still love me. And then on a healthy side, in a balance of giving and receiving, where the relationship is in full consciousness and awareness of each other. What are my needs? What are your needs? And at this time, where is the compromise so we come to a balance of neutrality within it? It doesn't mean that we're going to take care of your needs right now, but the compromise is, let's work on what I need to work on first, and then we'll come to you. That's the healthy compromise. And that's kind of how I looked at it the last week or so.
Beautiful. You know, Jeff, one of the things we did really well a couple of weeks ago in a prior episode was we broke the word down. We broke the topic word down. And I think that I want us to break down truly what compromise means in our life. As one of our viewers said, is it a blessing or is it a burden? And there's so much heaviness and heavy weight behind the word compromise. I could tell you guys that, if any of you have been into therapy or marriage counseling or partner counseling, that's a big word that therapists like to focus on. It's all about, we got to learn how to compromise and in a relationship. And at some point in the show, I'm gonna break it down from my perspective of how I embrace that word compromise today. But in the meantime, CM, Charles Maddox, you're up, brother. Let's talk a little bit about compromise from your perspective and what your relationship with that word is all about.
Yeah, when we were kind of talking about this in our pre-meeting, I wasn't really thinking of relationship. I was looking more at a society on a whole and who we are as a whole. Even now, if you look at all this political stuff that's going on, and you see, let's say, someone like, I'm just throwing out a name, Lindsey Graham, and you see, man, this person said this one thing 3 years ago, and then now they're saying a totally different thing. They've compromised themselves in ways where they even say, use my own words against me, and then 3 years later that word means absolutely nothing. And I think that when we look at society right now, just to get ahead, what have we compromised just to make a dollar? What have we compromised just to win the game, or to have that new car, or to, you look at shows like American Greed, people have compromised their freedom just to have something for a little while. So I think when we look at this on a whole, what have we compromised, or what do we compromise on a daily basis that, we can look in the mirror and say, what, I don't have to do that. I don't have to be that. You have people out here, once again, I always go back to this OnlyFans and these TikToks and all this stuff on Instagram, where people are literally just selling their bodies in some form of fashion just to make a dollar. I mean, what happened to a good old fashioned job? What happened to a good old fashioned schooling and just reading and writing and learning and giving back? And of course, I think when we tie it around to, relationships, we could look at sometimes how we compromise to be in a relationship or not be in a relationship, right? We can compromise things where we just look past things and put ourselves in a situation where we are fully compromised and we realize that we are fully compromised. And I think I touched on that last time as well, where a lot of the things that we get ourselves into based on us. We knew we shouldn't have been in that. We saw the warning signs. We knew we had no business touching that forbidden fruit, but we compromised it for love. We compromised it for affection. We compromised it for attention. We compromised it for sex. So, I think we can take a deep dive into this, but I just think that, what we compromise even for our happiness, right? A lot of people could be a whole lot happier, but we've compromised certain things. So
beautiful. Love that. Josh, you're sitting there being such a good listener tonight.
Sitting back there, brother. Sitting back.
So I'm going to ask you, Josh, to what do you make of all this so far? Just out of the gate, we're just teasing our viewers right now because we're going to go real deep into this topic. But what are you making up of what Ev and Jeff and Charles have all said so far?
I actually, two people that commented about keeping score just hit me pretty good, and that's an amazing thing to bring up. And my past self, my unbalanced self, did compromise to avoid conflict or to feel unhappy and to people please. And so, yes, compromise is very littered across my past. And I had never thought of, was I keeping score? And I was, for sure. So that was a beautiful awareness that just hit me. And thank you all for making that comment, because I hadn't considered that in my past before as well. And I for sure was keeping score. 100%.
So Josh, let me ask you this then. How can we as men be in a healthy relationship with a partner, a lover, and find a healthy balance so that we're not keeping score, but yet we're reciprocating? What is that? How do you think that can look, or have you figured that out yet? Have you had that experience since this awareness?
Of course, it's I think first and foremost is we have to make sure that we're being true to ourselves. We have to look out for ourselves first, and it sounds selfish or seems selfish, but it's not, because to be in a balanced, healthy relationship, we both parties have to show up whole. You can't show up out of need or lack, or what Jeff was talking about, needing that love and compromising yourself to get that love. We have to give that love to ourselves. So the first step is showing up whole. And then we've brought it up in other shows in the past, which is voicing our needs, communicating what it is that we need, or any, thoughts or expectations that we may have, and being very clear within ourselves first on what we need, and then communicating that to our partner.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. Hey, Ev, what do you make of this comment from Jillian Bowie coming in from the UK? I think it's about 2 a.m. in the morning, but I tell you what, do we not love Jillian? She comes in consistently every week. She's probably up the latest to support the show and be with us. So thank you, Jillian. Just wanted to put that out there, and thank you for being with us tonight. But she says, compromise your soul for your thoughts. I'm going to ask you, Ev, can you make sense of what that statement means? What does this mean?
Yeah, I think, Jillian's lit, man. I love looking at all of our viewers out there, the comments. And look, I guess in this context as well, when we're compromising our soul for those thoughts, if you're stuck in that headspace, particularly within these relationships, as I've said before, we come from that soul space. We are infinite, we are abundant, we're expansive. My thing is, particularly just to address the boys and what they've talked about with these relationships, how could that look like working? We've talked a little bit about the new era of what a relationship is going to look like, and that's going to be a partnership. So before you even engage within a relationship, what can you do to help that other beloved to expand or give value to the relationship itself? How can you become value to that other person and make sure that relationship expands as one? We're caught up in old programs still, where we commit into particular things like we're talking about, like these relationships, and we compromise to avoid the conflict, like my brother Josh just said. And what happens then is, when we compromise to avoid the conflict, we compromise our values, we compromise our ethics, we compromise our worth. And when you're compromising those three things, man, you're compromising your life.
Yes.
So when we go talk a little bit about more this soul space, you're not needy of any affection. You're not needy of anything, because you already have. You're not in a lack program. So just addressing on what the brothers have talked about within that side of relationships there, brother.
Beautiful. I want to just take a moment here. I love that, Ev, but I want to also acknowledge Carrie Crary. She and I met earlier this year, and thank you for joining us live tonight. She asked the question out of the gate, how about things we should never compromise?
Your heart.
Your worth.
Your heart. Your worth.
That's right.
You, as Eva said, you, me, Josh,
Mm-hmm.
Charles, Jay.
And I think we all know that feeling too, like when there is that little uneasiness inside. I don't know. Do you guys get that when you do compromise
Yeah.
in a negative way, when you're not
Mm-hmm.
compromising out of love and support for another, but you're sacrificing that a part of yourself, your values, like Ev was talking about. You get that little tightness in your chest and that uneasiness, and for so long I worked to ignore that, and now I tune into that. Those are the cues.
And
Love
you said that word there, Josh, too. You said that word sacrifice. And I think we've got to really dive in what comparison and where the comparison is between that word that we're talking about, compromise and sacrifice. Because when I talk about these old programs, when we're going into these relationships and based on these commitments, we're generally talking about the sacrifice of what we know as the Christ up on the cross, aren't we? We're coming in from old programs. So when we look at that word sacrifice, I'm seeing surrender, to give up. So what are you giving up about yourself that you don't see the value for another? And this is the dilemma that we're going in.
What about giving up the fight, Ev?
Which fight is that?
When you can go to in a relationship, any type of relationship, you can get to the place where everything's a fight inside of yourself. It becomes a fight in that relationship, the fight to be right. And that's where before I was talking about the healthy compromise, the healthy balance, because there is that healthy side of this. Then there's, in order to keep the separation, the isolation going, there's a fight in it to be right. I'm going to fight to have everything the way I want it. So yeah, there's a big male trait, actually.
Oh yeah.
And a real big male trait, that dominant fight inside of us, that I'm never going to back down. And you keep that fight up, and that's when the surrender comes in, to where those wounds within you to always fight and defend will fall away eventually. So it's about, it's all a compromise.
Yeah, I think, some of that is based on maybe when two people really aren't on evenly keel, right? I mean, I've been in situations where I've had to kind of check myself, right? You have to really look at how you think at times. That person could be really on point. And before I even say something, I kind of take a step back and I'm like, ooh, hold on, let me rethink what's coming out of my mouth, or look at a situation totally different. I remember I was talking to someone and they were giving an experience about something that they wanted to do in their life. And I was staunch against it, as they're sharing this with me. And I'm like, no, you shouldn't do that. I don't think that's a good idea. But then I kind of had to take a step back and look at what they were saying and realize that they were mature enough to make the decision that they were making, and that I had made a similar decision in a way myself, and had to kind of regroup that decision and regroup that conversation and say, hey, if you're ready to make that decision, I support you. So at times, when we're unevenly yoked, we have to deal with some of these, some of these compromises will come up. I think when you're evenly yoked and it's just a blissful thing, those compromises really live within ourselves as we speak to each other, as we interact with each other, before we say something, as we say something. We're not giving a foot or an inch. We're just realizing, man, the respect that I have for this person, you know, we're both leaning and giving, and it's a beautiful thing.
Wow. Charles, you just brought it home right there. You said the R word, the big R word, and that's respect. And so what I'd like to do is take a moment here to break it down from my perspective. If you really look at the word compromise, the last part of it is the eyes. And there's where I think it gets really slippery pretty quick, because we are watching with our eyes. That's the scorekeeping that's going on. And look, I was in a 30-year marriage, as you guys know, and there was the good and the bad and the ugly. But I could tell you from my perspective, for me, especially as the years stacked up this way, I was keeping score unknowingly. And the scorecard for me was being kept because there was an imbalance from my perspective. That's how I felt. That was my experience in this relationship called a marriage. And over time, what we lacked was respect for each other. I don't believe today that in a healthy relationship, we should have to feel like there's a compromise. And what I mean by that is, from my own experience today, is that, you bring two people together. What if it's let's say it's in a relationship, we come from different upbringings, we come from different cultures, we come from different religions and faiths, perhaps, different belief systems. And then we come together thinking like, all we need is love. And it's kind of like the Facebook, what relationship you were in, you say it's complicated. That's how relationships are. They can be complicated because we haven't been really taught by healthy mentors how to show up relationally, how to show up with respect for one another. And so for me, like what I'm able to do today is I'm able to just be a good listener, for example, and not feel like I have to compromise, but I'm willing to do something that's way more powerful than compromise. It's the big H, honor. Honor my partner. Honor the person that I'm negotiating with in a business transaction of sorts. And when we are willing to really see that person for who they are in that moment, love them in that moment, respect them in that moment, and honor them in that moment, I don't have to feel like I'm compromising a thing. As long as I'm not compromising or giving up my own integrity. As long as I'm not willing to accept unacceptable behavior from someone else, by no means am I suggesting that we be a doormat. No more. But what I am suggesting is that we can let go of the idea that we have to live in compromised relationships. We can live in a relationship of love, respect, and honor. That's how I like to break it down. Jeff, what do you think of that?
Oh, well, I think what you're talking about is a healthy balance of giving and receiving.
100%, Jeff.
Yeah,
100%.
Healthy balance of giving and receiving. But the most important part of this is that we have to grow to a place of awareness and consciousness within ourselves to even begin to understand this. That's the most important thing. So we could talk about, was I compromised in this relationship, bring up this story and bring up that story. The thing about it is to open up to an awareness and consciousness within ourselves, so we can, as Jay just said, honor and value and respect another, because we're doing that for ourselves. We're honoring, valuing, and respecting ourselves first. And then we come into a relationship whether it's with your beloved, whether it's with your boss or your coworkers or your best friends. It's all relationships on different levels. And it's about honoring and valuing and knowing yourself and loving yourself enough to do that with another. So then there's that balance of giving and receiving in a relationship, what I call a healthy compromise. Or maybe we want to get rid of that word too and put that compromise.
Yeah, bro.
Words we don't say.
It's another word we need to debunk, brothers.
You know, that's what it to me. Everything is a healthy balance of giving and receiving, where both parties are at a level of consciousness and awareness of themselves to be even open to that idea.
I was going to say, number one, I got to say hi to Carrie. She was one of the stars of our show too, as well. 8 days.
Beautiful.
But there's two thoughts that came to my mind. Our way is not always the right way. And especially as men, you know, we like to have that machismo type of thing, and in situations, you know, we may, take offense if somebody says something or gives us a suggestion, and that we feel that we're compromising ourselves because, you know, the woman or partner may say, hey, what about doing it this way, or what about going that way, or what about, you know, different things. So, you know, it could be finance or you know, that's always a touchy subject, right? You know, especially in a relationship, finance, money, and how you spend money, what you're doing with the money. But then also realizing that compromise can be a very negative thing with two people who really have no business being together, and understanding when that compromise needs to be done, right? When you see that, man, I am giving up too much, and I am being taken advantage of, when this is not going the right way. I hear too many stories of people that I know who you hear this unbelievable craziness that they're living in. And you're like, holy crap, what are you not seeing? I was talking to this one young lady I know, she's not on here, and the guy that she was living with, he liked her messing with other friends of his and this, that, and the other thing. The stuff that you hear is unbelievable. So when you see yourself starting to compromise and lose value in yourself, like Jeff was saying, that's when it is time to go. So you have to know when that on and off switch, as far as what you've compromised, is just too much. And at times letting go of that person could be the best thing for you and that person.
Beautiful, my brother. So Charles, my brother, I'm going to ask you a question, my man.
Yes, baby.
So if there was another female companion that
Yeah.
wanted to be in a relationship with you, and she was more yoked, like you say, would you give up what you do because she was more yoked, and she said that we could live together, we have anything you want?
Yeah.
I'll look after us. Would you go down that path?
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Could you repeat that question? Hey, I want to hear that. I want to hear that question again. I heard the answer. I heard the heck yeah. But something came up. Maybe the eucalyptus. I had a sneeze and I missed the question, but I know it was
The brother was talking about being more yoked on one side, maybe, of the relationship. So, you know, what we do see with a lot of men, and I've seen it with clients that I've helped, that, you know, they still feel they need to be the breadwinner. And, you know, if a female came into Charles' life, like I just asked him the question, would he be able to give up everything that he does and he strives for as a male, if she was to say that I'll keep us yoked, I'll keep us set, all you have to do is stay home, baby?
All day, every day, baby. You know, see, with that, Evis, is the thing is that, you know, like you just said, we want to be the breadwinner because we want to provide. You know what I'm saying? And if a woman said, "Hey, man, I can provide," we can focus on another dream. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm just doing what I do to provide. But if you've got a way that we can live good, man, we can focus on some other dream, and we don't have to worry about the money part right now.
Love that, man. Yeah, because it's so common, and unfortunately, many of our livelihoods has been based on this capitalistic society that we've been living in from day one. And unfortunately, we see a lot of relationships go apart because of that reason. So thanks, man. That's a beautiful answer.
Yeah, brother.
I want to take us to a whole other perspective of this. This has been an absolutely beautiful conversation, breaking down the word compromise and maybe even willingness to take it out of our thought process and how we show up relationally. But I do want to bring us to a part of this conversation that going to be a surprise for you guys. But
we love Jay. We love
no surprises, Jay. We rehearsed this. Come on.
Okay. All right. Pull out the notes and shred them, Jeff. Let's talk about compromise in intimacy.
Whew.
Compromise in a relationship that you're in. Let's assume a monogamous relationship. Where does healthy intimacy and sex as part of that play into this word? Who wants to take that question?
Josh, you're up.
Compromise and intimacy. I'm in the hot seat now.
Yeah.
I guess I'm drawing a blank personally because maybe I don't feel like I do compromise in intimacy. The current me, I did in my past in a long relationship, and that person was not as intimate as I was wanting to be, and therefore I compromised a lot, and I took on that as a rejection, and I took that on as a not feeling attractive. But I've moved through all that, and so I feel like I'm healthy with it now. I don't know. I'm not really knowing how to answer that, to be fully honest.
It's okay. I think you just did, Josh.
Let Jeff get in there. Jeff done been there, done that. Let's hear what Jeff got to say.
Well, the first thing about it is that Jay, pop in there again, because I need to look at you when I talk about this.
He wants that intimacy, Jay.
The thing about it is you mentioned intimacy. And intimacy comes from the heart and the soul. So to me, if two people are on that level, I think that is where intimacy really comes from our heart and our soul. And then it's once again, I'm going to bring this back. There's a balance of giving and receiving. When we come from our heart and we come from our soul, we're in balance. And then when we come from that place and we connect with another who's coming from that same place, that same conscious awareness from their heart and their soul, they're in balance. And when then two people come together from that place, then there's an openness in our heart chakra all the way down to our first chakra, where there's a connection that's made, where there's this incredible balance of giving and receiving and openness, where it's all about communication, honoring, valuing, and respecting each other. And then in that is creating clear and healthy boundaries.
Okay, Jeff.
Well,
this sounds like heaven.
Well, hold on. Since you tippy-toeing around.
Where is she, Jeff? Where is she?
But the point is, but then if you're getting into sex and things are brought up and you're coming from that soul space and that heart space, which is what everybody wants, You could, we talked about it. You could use sex as totally isolated and separate yourself and putting a barrier between the two of you. If everybody is honest in our audience right now, and you ask everybody what you want, they're looking from a heart-to-heart, soul space intimacy with each other. If they're honest and truthful. And I bet you all, the 5 of us here can say the same thing. Be honest and be truthful with yourself. And then with that, in that place, comes all of this balance of open conversation about what works in our sex life that we can both enjoy together, where we're not connecting on the root chakra, first chakra stuff that really is separating us anyway.
That sounds amazing.
Mhm.
I'm not sure everybody gets down like that. You know what I'm saying? Baby,
I
what
can't
do
accept
you
anything
like?
less than that.
Time to, man.
Hold on,
You
hold
know,
on,
what-
hold on,
what
hold
do
on.
you
Let
like?
Charles, you got it. You got
What
it,
do
Charles.
you like? What don't you like? Can I put it there? Is it all right there? I mean, I think that's what. Even what do we compromise? What won't we accept? You know, if you like a certain thing, and that person is not into that thing, what do you do about that? Because that could be a miserable existence.
Are you
Charles.
asking me?
Charles, I'm gonna run with that. Let me run with that right now.
Yeah.
Charles, I'm with you all the way. Jeff, what you just described is utopia.
Please, Jeff.
it's heaven
please,
on earth.
But
But I'm gonna bring it back home, right here, right now. We come into relationships with our past. We come into our relationships with past wounds, traumas, sexual, physical. And it impacts how we show up in intimacy.
Yep.
And even when we have healthy relationships, it's still potentially there. And there's where, for me, it comes back to, and even in my life, I work on, in my relationship, acceptance, honoring and respecting my partner, knowing that there are some old shadows that still pop up because of her past experiences in her life that impacted her at the most profound, deepest level of her being, her soul, that impacts us in intimacy to a degree. This is me being real on Real Men, Real Talk Live. What I'm just describing here, I believe, is not uncommon. I think it's a high percentage of couples in relationships. We bring to the table our past. And I know it comes down to the greatest way to break through is to break free by healing those old shadows.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes willingness on the part of a partner, and it takes commitment on the part of the individual that is in that partnership to be patient and to love them in their space right where they're at. Josh, I know I'm not speaking a foreign language to you because we've had this talk about your past relationship that you shared on this show.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
you didn't know what you didn't know. You didn't know some of that back history, and
I
you
didn't
were
know
blaming yourself for the
Mhm.
compromises that you were making in intimacy and in that relationship. Am I right? I mean,
Absolutely. She had sexual trauma and she didn't share that with me for 8.5 years that we were together. And so that was, I took it all on personally. But I think you bring up a great point, Jay, that, and Charles, you were saying, if you both aren't into that, what do you do? Where, and I think if we come back to the breakdown, which is that if you are both actively working on healing yourselves holding that other person in a space of honor, respect, and love, and being patient through that process of healing with them. That to me, and I think that's maybe why I didn't understand the question, because I always come from that place of meeting them where they are and supporting the woman I love to be her best self.
Mhm.
And so in that support, there is patience, there is understanding, there is compassion for those pains and those traumas. And that to me isn't a compromise at all. That's love and support.
Beautiful.
And that's what I'm saying about intimacy coming from the heart and the soul. If we're coming from that place, whatever comes up in a relationship, it's about conversation, communication. If we're coming from that place in our heart and our soul space, then we come from a place of love. And as the relationship unfolds, things come up, things don't come up. We're both holding ourselves in a space and place of love and caring. And if somebody wants to try something sexually, you talk about it. How do you feel about that? It's in my relationships, even when I was half conscious, things would come up. And because we're at a place, you talk about it. You just, you talk about it, and you're adults about it. We're not talking about, I don't know if there's any 18 or 19 or 21-year-old kids listening to us right now, but I'm talking about coming from an adult place, which most of us are, and we do hold a space for people, not even in our intimate relationships, just holding the space for anyone to be where they are, and you talk about it.
And definitely straight from the beginning of a relationship as well. We get past that honeymoon period and, you might have the beloved say, why don't you text me as much? Why don't you send messages to me anymore like you do? So really, like you said, the communication is key from the start. Talk about these likes, these dislikes, these needs, these wants that you may have wanting in need of intimacy and sexual relations, as opposed to allowing this to really get ahead of time and then 2 years, 3 years later down the track, then find out that something wasn't, a disconnection, so to speak. And then what we start to see that, like you said, Jeff, there's a lack of balance. It's out of balance. Yep. So really getting these things and communicating them from the start, I feel is really key.
Yep.
Well, we took the show in a whole different direction.
I knew
as we often do.
I didn't.
I did say relationships, brother. I knew it was coming to relationships.
I think we all knew it was going there anyway.
Stephanie Paris says something. I can't see where it's at right now, but she says, "Jay, you are in trouble." I don't see it that way. I spent a lifetime troubled, and I'm no longer troubled. I just share the truth, and this show is about being real. If I'm going to ask you guys to show up and show vulnerability, then it's my responsibility to show up just the same. And I just want to piggyback what I dropped in here a few minutes ago. It's not just our female partners that show up with past wounds and traumas and pain.
Exactly.
And from past abuse. We do as men too.
Yep.
I walked into my relationship with a whole bag full of, a whole bag of traumas and wounds from my past that impacted my ability to show up in healthy intimacy. When Mary and I met, I remember one of our first dates, we were walking along a boatyard pier area and somewhere in Long Beach. And I remember we asked each other, what is it that we're looking for in our relationship? Ultimately, what do we want? And we both said the same thing: healthy intimacy. because neither one of us had experienced that. I was 54, Mary was 52 or so, and we both lacked that. And that's truly what we desired. And we've been at it now for 5 years, and it's simple, not easy, because some of that stuff is still there. It comes up when you least expect it. It's like, I don't want to call it an activation or a trigger, but it is. It's part of. It's in us at the cellular memory, and it takes a lot of time to heal those old wounds and traumas so that we can be 100% free. Whether we get there in this lifetime, all of us, we don't know. We won't know till we know. But I tell you what, at least we're working on it. At least the 5 of us are working on it. How we work on it, if nothing else, it's by showing up on this show. This talk show is about healthy intimacy. Now, we may not be having sex together, but sex is such a small part of healthy intimacy. It's just part of. There's so much more to it.
Mm-hmm.
And us learning as men how to show up and feel safe with each other and be vulnerable and share our truths and our dirty laundry is us practicing healthy intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yep.
We touched on things that may come into a relationship or bring into, but at times it's I don't bring anything like that into a relationship.
Mm.
I go in, man, and I'm just happy. And I've been in situations where, the other person didn't have any per se past drama or issues or anything like that. Just 2 people, man, just enjoying the ride, man, and having a great time. So I don't just want to focus on what issues or what drama or what things somebody might be carrying. Sometimes it is just a great thick situation, even if we've had bad situations, even if, the last thing wasn't a great relationship. We could walk into something, man, at times, just, if we fall off that horse, we just getting up, jumping on the next horse. We can just walk right in, man, with a healthy perspective without bringing up or looking at the past or thinking about the past, and just enjoy each other for this moment and for this ride. And hopefully that ride lasts a long time. But, I'd like to look at it on that side too, as well, where we don't always have to go through some metamorphosis and some transformation and some healing process to just enjoy two people just enjoy each other.
Well, that sounds great too, Charles. That's if it was that easy, oh boy, we'd be living in a world of nothing but love and more hugs. But as you know, Charles, unfortunately, that's not the climate that we're living in. We are working to change it by touching one person at a time.
Yep.
Ev, what are you making of all this overseas there, across the pond, as they say?
Wow, man, just getting warm and fuzzy with all this beautiful intimacy talk as always. But yeah, man, look, one thing that really comes to me is just really understanding each other within a relationship. If we're talking about this compromise, and not feeling you have to give up something of value from yourself to avoid that conflict, like Josh and I mentioned as well. This true alignment to your own personal values and self-worth, and be able to really come together for expansion.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's really not commitment. The new way of relationships, man, I keep saying this, it's going to be partnerships. You'll be committed to the transitory nature of someone. Let me say that again. You'll be committed to the transitory nature of someone. Where energy keeps moving. It's fluid. It's flowing. Yeah. I'm not going to be the same person tomorrow that you're seeing here right now. Jeff's not going to be the same person. Josh, Jay, my brother Charles. It's really committing to this beautiful flow of energy and really understanding each other from the word go in that beginning. Because like I said, if it gets down 2-3 years down the track and you really haven't talked about some of these things, that's when we feel the need to compromise. And as our sister out there, Jillian, said, you know, most of us that have come into relationships and have come together till this point, we've been in a sense of lack from wounding and trauma, which is exactly what you just touched on, Jay. And that's searching for that someone, compromises to make them whole. I mean, what a comment. Yeah. That's lit. Yeah. That is lit.
I love what you just said, Ellis. Partnerships, we come into partnerships with each other, which is how I look at it. We're coming into partnerships for expansion.
Yeah, man.
Mm-hmm.
How cool is that?
Beautiful, man. 5D, brother. 5D, bring it on.
Exactly.
Sign me up.
We're coming into partnerships for expansion, not commitments.
Of attachment, yeah. 100%.
Or attachments.
Right.
And that comes from the heart space and the soul space.
I want to post something here. Jamie Rodriguez, by the way, Jamie, thank you so much for having me on your podcast, J-Rod Concert Podcast. I was on just a couple of days ago, I think yesterday. I enjoyed being in a hot seat, having a camera and mic directed at me. Jamie says, can I also add that today's media does not teach young generations to compromise. It teaches younger people to cut bait and not fight, not grow to compromise. All right, well, thank you for sharing that, Jamie. I just wanted to put that out there because we know that from the time we are born, we are receiving downloads. We are receiving the programming in our homes, at school, in media. And really what we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks or so or more in this show is really breaking the chain to our programming so that we can become free of the inner bondage that's no longer serving us. None of that stuff is serving us. It's up to us to wake up, and then show up and make the changes in your life so that you could experience heaven on earth right here, right now. Hey guys, you're not going to believe it. We are 3 minutes coming up on the hour. This could be a 3-hour show, but out of respect to your time on a Tuesday evening, we're going to do our best to keep us within our normal range here. But what I'd like to do, this is the time of the show where we call this musical chairs. This is where you don't know when you're going to be given 2 minutes to share either closing thoughts on the show and or answer the following question. So here's the question. We have spent just shy of an hour really examining, breaking down the word compromise, the good, the bad, and the ugly. For the one viewer who may be tuning in with us live or on replay, from your perspective, guys, if you'd like to share, how can we embrace relationships that we are all in a healthier way, using or dissolving the word compromise from our vocabulary and from our behavior so that our relationships can heal, our relationships can get better. We can attract healthier relationships. So here's an opportunity to drop a truth bomb, a liquid gold moment with our viewers. And so with that, I'm going to invite Jeff Fasano. You're up first. You're in the hot seat.
You did this last week. I was the first one last week. And I just want to let you know.
Is it transitory nature?
It could change that fast.
Well, Jay and I have a balance of giving and receiving in our relationship that comes from our heart space and soul space that's healthy.
There you go.
All right, Charles, you were in deep thought, so I figured, you know what, since Jeff actually brought up a truth, he did go first last week. Now, wait a minute. Does that mean that you're keeping score, Fasano? Who's keeping the scorecard in Real Men Real Talk Live?
Yeah, hold on. I got it right here.
Yeah.
Exactly. All All right, Charles.
I'm gonna keep it real simple. I think that if we're talking about relationships, really find someone that you're evenly yoked with. And I say that, you know, and I always look at, and I'm just talking about women sometimes, right? In this particular instance, you know, you'll hear women talk, man, I want tall, dark, and handsome, or they want a guy who's 6 foot with tattoos and this, that, and the other thing. And those are not just younger girls who say that. But I think that, you know, evenly yoked is the key. And look at the qualities that are really important. Is that person a spiritual person? Ask them those questions. You know, I've hung out with plenty of women, man, over my years, and I've never had anybody say, you know, or very few say first, you know, what are your spiritual beliefs? Or, you know, what do you think about, you know, long-term commitments? Or, you know, just questions that actually make some sense, that could find a partner, not just for a couple of months, a couple of weeks, or even a couple of years, right? Because nobody wants to be in something and break up in 2 or 3 years. And just to even with Jamie's point that he made too as well. Nowadays, it seems like people literally, they're not talking about we're going to be together and we're going to last for an eternity. It's last for 2 or 3 months, maybe 2 or 3 years, and then, you know, the cycle continues. As far as just overall compromise, I think that, you know, our values should stand for something. You know, the world has changed, and I think that we don't have to curve and bend with that. We shouldn't compromise what we believe in, what we have faith in, what we hold as true. So, you know, compromising in whether it's relationships, or personal, or life, or religion, whatever it may be, you know, we got one ride, and we want to stand for something and leave something at the same time. But going back to relationships, definitely find someone you're evenly yoked with, man. That's the key. And then you won't have to do a whole bunch of compromising and bending and turning in the relationship.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Nice, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love that, Charles.
Yeah.
So, Charles, it's all about the yolk.
It's all about the yoke, baby.
Keto, brother.
I don't have eggs in my home because, you know, there's some allergies around eggs, but I think I'm going to go buy a dozen eggs tomorrow. We're going to yolk it up in his home tomorrow.
No doubt.
Thank you, Charles.
Yes, brothers.
Hey.
Josh Richer.
Whoa,
Baby.
All right. You know, for me, and I'm not talking just relationships with a significant other, but relationships with work or a boss. And I've talked about some conflicts that I've had in the past. And for me, when I found myself keeping score, and when I found myself feeling wronged, and when I found myself getting defensive, I replaced what I thought were all those compromises with compassion. And so for me, my nugget would be try replacing compromise with compassion and see what's underneath. There's pain, and there's feelings behind those other person's words and their actions. And if you can take that minute to hold them in a space of compassion, it's pretty amazing what you can see. And what I saw in conflicts that I've had in the past was someone who was hurting and someone who was in pain. And when I could see that, then it wasn't about me at all. I didn't have to keep score. My heart just felt for that person. And so I stopped keeping score. I stopped feeling like it was a compromise, that I wasn't getting my way or things weren't going the way that I had hoped. When I flipped it to compassion, it just took all of that away. And so that was a huge realization for me last year in an area that I was feeling a lot of conflict and a lot of struggle. So I turned to compassion, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was amazing what I learned. And that goes with ourselves too. honoring our struggles, and holding ourselves in compassion instead of like us guys do, where we often are very uncompassionate towards ourselves and expect so much and demand so much of ourselves and try and push and the grind and all of that. Holding ourselves in a place of compassion as well and honoring where we're at. It's a beautiful thing.
Wow. That's amazing, Josh. The word compassion really for me it's the umbrella. It's going back to respect. It's going back to honor, understanding. But the compassion part is huge. And I could tell you, a lot of us weren't really taught that growing up in our homes. We weren't taught empathy and compassion and respect. We were taught how to survive. We were taught how to chase the dream. And therein lies where I think is one of our greatest gateways to love, to respect for ourselves and others. It's got to start with compassion. But I'm going to take it one step further, Josh, and maybe this is a topic for another show. Self-compassion.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the healing begins. Because when we can experience what self-compassion can feel like, only then do I think we can truly, authentically have compassion for another human being. That's another topic for another night.
Wow.
But thank you for sharing that, Josh. Richard, one more time. Josh, we miss you when you're on set, boy.
I'm so happy to be here. I love you guys.
Love you too, brother.
It's such a beautiful space that you guys hold for me and I hold for you, and that this is intimacy. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
And everybody sharing space with us right now. It's incredible. I'm so honored to be here with all of you.
Just a reminder to our viewers, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're not done yet. We still got a little bit to go here. But if you heard something that you like or love, please share it out with your friends and family. If you have a sibling, a parent, a friend, someone in your community that you know is right now struggling, hurting, confused, in pain, introduce them to Real Men, Real Talk Live. We're not just a show for men. We're a show for all. We're a show to touch all of our lives and to bring inspiration and hope to your life. So thank you for joining us tonight. We got Jeff Fasano coming in a hot seat right now. Jeff, you feeling a little bit better now?
I am. Thank you. Thank you for honoring, valuing, respecting my half of the relationship. How's that?
Beautiful.
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 Wow. Self-compassion. And I was thinking about what I wanted to say, but Josh just hit on self-compassion, which is one of my challenges as a man. It is self-compassion, is to let myself off the hook, is to say it's okay. It's that striving to be perfect. So I get stuck in that, and then I'll move into other areas of my life. But I want to really, that once again, Josh, you did it again. It hit me with one of my challenges is self-compassion. And what popped into my head is if something happened, my father would just, I remember, ripping the hamstrings in my right leg, and my father goes, "Take 2 aspirin, you're going to be fine in the morning."
Wow.
Meanwhile, I ripped the hamstrings off the bone in my back of my right leg playing baseball. That I never was modeled at, but that's a big one for me. So that's really, really important in relationships, is that compassion and that self-compassion, and having compassion for exactly where another is in the relationship. And in all relationships, and not just the intimate relationship that we're in with our beloved, but it's in any relationship. Our best friends, once again, a relationship that we have with our career. I can tell you where I have compromised myself based upon my value of my talents and gifts as a photographer, where I have fully compromised and undervalued me, which is where I want to segue back into what Charles said is about where we have lost our values. And it really comes down to how much and how deeply we really honor and value ourselves. And going in and honoring and valuing who we are, and honoring and valuing our talents, gifts, and abilities. And then we begin to move into that heartfelt value, that value in the soul space, our value in our heart space. We can then value another. We can then value another. But we have to, it's that value. Where is our heartfelt values that we can open our heart space and then have compassion for everyone. Have compassion for everyone exactly where they are in their process. If we learn that self-compassion, and that's one of my challenges, and I'm learning self-compassion each and every day to let myself off the hook at times. And then with that, I gain a greater sense of value of who I am as a person. And then I can open my heart and value others. And then brings that back to that balance and giving and receiving of love that brings us into this collective consciousness of value, of compassion, of love, of honor, and of respect. So there's this new collective consciousness where it is about value.
I love that. I love that, Jeff. I want to take a moment here, Jeff. I want to read something because I know that without your glasses on, which is a good thing, you're not reading the comments. You
just got my kryptonite, Jack.
You're
You
just
just got a love fest.
you're in flow. But I do want to share this from Jillian. She says, this is to you, Jeff. She says, self-compassion and to believe that you are enough. You are more than enough, Jeff Fasano. Believe.
Beautiful.
Feel it, Jeff. I love you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you, Julian, for that. Thank you.
There you go. We have a very in tune.
Oh yeah, man.
Amazing.
Very lit, brother.
So deep and so just in tune with themselves, and it's powerful. It's very powerful. Yeah.
Hey, Charles, when you signed up for Real Men Real Talk Live, did you have a sense of what the hell you were signing up for?
Definitely not. I knew there was definitely diversity. I knew you guys were, sharp, but never, this depth and this, what we've kind of built here, and the friends and the following that we have, and the potential for where this could go. No, I did definitely. But you know what? I shouldn't say that. I mean, the five of us have done some things in our life, so I wouldn't doubt that we could do something amazing together. So I take that back.
Ronnie Fisher, coming in from overseas, she says, coming in from Australia, no regrets though. Hey, Charles?
Nah, Brony. Nah.
We only regret the things we never do.
True.
That's it, man.
The reason this show works and the reason that we show up the way we do is because we're showing up in our lives first and foremost. And then we come to a production meeting. And so many times we have been in a production meeting where we say, God, why didn't we just tape this? Because this was just another show. We go there sometimes. It works because there is love between the five of us. Tremendous respect. I can't speak for you guys, but I will speak for myself.
Yeah.
1,000%.
I have never met 4 other men in my life that I have such respect for and honor.
Yeah.
The journey that you have been on for self-discovery. And it's simple, not easy. Sometimes, we have to have those difficult conversations. We've had them.
Yeah.
But through it, we get to now honor each other even more and have a higher level of respect. And it shows up right here, right now. It shows up how we're showing up.
Yeah.
This has been an amazing show. The man from the land from down under, across the world.
Wow, man, what a lit show. And as always, thank you, brothers and sisters. I'm going to do something a little bit different. I just saw a little comment. I just want to answer. If you can get that up, Jay, the sister Madonna Bar. Thanks for sending it. Did you see that one, Jay?
I did. Which one? Was that replaced compromise with prestige, or was that about healthy intimacy?
She actually mentioned something at me. She said, Evis, partnership is not a new way of relationships. We have always done relationships like that. There is nothing wrong with commitment and loyalty. I'd love you to put that up, brother. Let me dive into that.
Yeah. Oh,
it's beautiful.
That's a show.
That's a show.
That is another show.
I'm looking for it. Let me see.
How far back was it? Wow, man.
There's some comments out there, man. This might have been it might have been when I was talking a little bit about being transitory and really committing to the transitory nature of a human being.
Well, what's important is that I'm going to invite you.
There you go.
Oh,
beautiful, sister. Thanks for sharing that. And she said, just to say that again, Evis, partnership is not a new way of relationships. We've always done relationships like that. There is nothing wrong with commitment and loyalty. And wow, beautiful, sister. I'm going to piggyback on that. And I'm going to just say one thing, though. The relationships that we've had in the past have been based on childhood wounding, trauma, and abuse. We've fallen back on our beloved. We've fallen back and we've been wounded, so we get into an attached-based relationship. Never once would I say to commit into a relationship. Never once would I say not to be loyal. When I look at that word loyal, I think of that word being also true. When I look at that word commitment, I'm going to ask you, brothers and sisters, have you committed to yourself? Let me say that again. Have you committed to yourself? Because until this point, so many of us have compromised our own worth, our own value, our own truth, our own loyalty, all of these beautiful words we've said tonight. We're going into the year 2021. And last week we spoke about and asked the question, are you going to be the one? Well, I'm going to ask you, are you willing to commit to yourself? Are you willing to be loyal to yourself? And come from the heart and know that you are the one. And when you have made that alignment with self, you will start to attract synchronized frequencies and commitments into your life, and then you can do it as one. And that's me on that note, my brother.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Boom.
Thanks, sister. Thanks, sister.
Hey, wait a minute. Ev, that was so damn good. I think you just earned 2 more minutes. Does anyone, any viewers say no, no, no? Everyone say, I want to hear one big yes, yes, yes. We want 2 more from Ev. Ev, that was, I tell you what. Oh wow, that's just freaking amazing. Keith says that. This is Keith's answer to you. Of course, we have the feminine, divine, beautiful. My angel Mary Kelly saying, "Ah, beautiful." That's amazing. Jillian says, "As one." Ronnie
one,
says,
brothers and
"Yes, yes."
sisters.
Ronnie says, "Yes." She wants 2 more.
As one, brothers and sisters, as one in 21.
Yep.
We have Donna Kay saying, "Please, more. Give me more." I love that.
I gotta say hi to real quick, not hi, but Gillian is actually in the CRPS community too as well. So that's the film that I did on complex regional pain syndrome. So glad to see her here, and with Sherry too as well, who's also in the CRPS community.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
We are. It's always about the relationship we're having with ourselves.
With ourselves. Yep.
100%.
And then when we get that right, our frequency is higher and we attract that beautiful other that mirrors who we
100%.
are.
Okay, do we want to keep going for another hour? Because I'm telling you, we're getting there, man. We're getting into attraction and vibration.
Yeah.
Bring
Well,
us home, Jay.
it's that time of the show where a week goes fast. For me, I get a little bit of a teaser because I get to see you guys one more day during the week for production meeting. But this is one of the highlights of my week, every week.
Yeah.
Because we connect in a beautiful way. We connect with our viewers. We connect with our listeners. We connect with our family and our friends, our fans and our foes, as Ever says in his world. Deb says, "I'm good for another hour." Haha, I just got here.
Let's see what Jillian said about Evis.
Jillian says, "If this is what happens to you, Evis Heath here, I would be amazed to see your sex life. More or 2 more minutes."
Thanks, sister. You're making me blush now.
This has been just a beautiful show, just a beautiful conversation. I never know where it's going to go. When we pick a subject, I'm not always aligned with it. I don't always feel it in a moment. But what I do is I trust in that moment. I know, I trust that we're going to go wherever we're supposed to go. I know that we're going to connect. I know that we're going to feel the love, not only between us 5, but our viewers. And we're going to impact, inspire, and change lives. We don't need to change hundreds of millions. We just got to change one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And if each one of us then takes what we heard, what touched us, that changed us, and then share it with someone else, that's how this business works. Our show is truly about the message. The message is not about compromise. The message is not about selling our souls, selling ourselves out to anybody or anything at any time. It truly is about being real. It truly is about coming home to yourself, to you. It's a process of self-discovery. But when we discover who we are and we begin to like that person and eventually fall in love, we now have a new capacity to love others in a way we never experienced before. How do I know that? Because I'm speaking about my life. I'm grateful today. Yesterday, I got an amazing letter, unexpected, that brought me to tears from one of my clients. I know you're watching. I just want to acknowledge you in this moment. You touched my heart. We don't know who we are impacting, who we are, as Madonna says, influencing. When we speak on this show, we're not speaking from opinions. We're speaking from our experience of having had the courage to walk through the fire, to walk through the sharded glass, to fall, to get hurt, to have setbacks, to face failures, grow, and learn. And that's what we do. We show up and we're growing up together. I love you guys. I can't wait till our next show. I have no idea what it's going to be about. I don't need to know that in this moment. I'm just going to honor tonight's show and compromise. I love you guys. Thank you, viewers. Please share out the show.
Yeah, sure.
And stay healthy. Peace and blessings. We love you guys. We'll see you next week on Real Men, Real Talk Live.
Peace, peace, peace.
Peace.